Hello, Peoria Heights. The pandemic here has produced some unprecedented developments for those of us who have become accustomed to a bustling business district and miss seeing many of those places open. Today we're privileged to have the person at the point of dealing with a lot of that, Chris Setti, CEO of the Greater Peoria Economic Development Council, who has become one of the busiest guys in town and trying to help local businesses stay afloat during this crisis. Chris, thanks for taking the time and welcome.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate you being here. So, by the way, we are practicing social distancing and we're going to make this quick. So, Chris, we're worried about everybody these days, but we're in particular worried about our local businesses who've really taken a hit. What assistance, what help is out there for those looking to try to get over this hump?
There's lots of assistance that's available, and lots of programs that have been developed and are being developed at all levels of government. And so the CARES Act, which was the kind of the third bill that was passed by the federal government, by Congress, and then signed by the president, really just about a week and a half ago, has a lot of great programs in it.
$2 trillion worth.
It's $2 trillion worth of program, some of which are directed at individuals, like the direct payment to people, but some directed specifically to small businesses. So the one that's the most popular is the Paycheck Protection Program. That's the one that everybody's kind of working their way through. There was $350 billion or $349 billion put into that program. And I heard on the very first day they had approved $14 billion worth of loans through that, nationwide. So locally our banks are working hard with their customers and even some new customers to understand how that program works.
And that's a loan program, but potentially a forgivable loan program.
Correct. It's it's really it's brilliant in its strategy. It's essentially almost like unemployment payment in a way, except it's helping to pay businesses to keep working and keep their operations going. So it really is for businesses, not that have closed, but businesses that are thinking about that they might have to close because business is down or orders aren't coming in or something like that, to kind of help keep afloat. So basically what it does is you figure out what your average payroll is in a month. And then you multiply that by 2.5, and that ends up getting you basically 10 weeks worth of that payroll. So that's the money that you're borrowing. Over the course of 8 weeks, then any money that you spend on payroll and additionally on utilities or rent and some other some other working capital costs, that portion of the grant or loan is then forgiven. So it's possible that 100% of the loan will be forgiven, and then the remaining amount is a 4% loan, I think, over 10 years. So it's a very attractive program for businesses, but also for nonprofits, as long as they're 501c3s. Not churches, not religious organizations, but some of our great nonprofits in our community, like Neighborhood House and the Center for Prevention of Abuse, and those kinds of organizations can also qualify for that program.
And it's available also even to sole proprietorships, correct?
And for independent contractors. The window for independent contractors is supposed to open on Friday, April 10th. I don't know if that's still the case, but the window for everyone for regular businesses was Friday, April 3rd, so just about a week ago or half a week ago.
So I'm a local business, and I've been kind of playing this by ear, and I wasn't sure if I wanted to pursue one of these programs or not. Where do I go to access information, learn about these programs, get application materials, that sort of thing? Sure.
So first of all, I can't imagine that at this point any business in our community hasn't already talked to their banker. And so especially with this Paycheck Participation Program, you should just go right to your banker and start talking to them. We've assembled a website that where we try at Greater Peoria EDC to put all kinds of information, and I can give that to you. And I might mention it more than once once throughout this, is www.gpcovid.com. I don't even think I have to spell COVID anymore. I think everybody knows how to spell it. And so there's a variety of programs. I just mentioned one. Another great place to reach out to is the Small Business Development Center at Bradley University.
Okay.
Jim Foley and his group is doing a great job of trying to counsel people and help them connect with resources as well.
Okay, good. So one of these programs, the Downstate Business Stabilization Program, the application process is relatively complex and it's extensive. Are there people who can talk applicants through this process?
Sure, and maybe let me explain a little bit about the Downstate Stabilization Program. This is a state of Illinois program, and it's actually the state of Illinois is reprogramming some of its federal dollars that are called community development block grant dollars, and they put about $20 million into this program. And the beauty of this is it's a straight up grant. It is not a loan at all. It's just a grant. And it's built to help businesses that really have been closed. Most of the businesses that are eligible to apply are businesses that have had to close because they're quote unquote non-essential businesses. And
even though we think all businesses are
right,
essential.
I hate to be the guy that tells somebody you're non-essential. As a former city employee who was always in the non-essential category, I always hated that term, myself. But what it really does is it allows. And bars and restaurants, even if they're still technically open because they're offering carryout, they qualify as well. So it will provide them up to 2 months of working capital. So again, that definition is payroll, utility, rent, those are the sorts of things. So 2 months worth or 60 days worth of working capital up to $25,000.
Right.
Because it's federal money, there's some other eligibility issues. I think the couple that I will mention, because they're the broadest, are that one is you have to be a business that has been in existence with the current and the same ownership structure since at least January 1, 2017.
Right.
That's probably the thing that is kicking the most people out is that particular rule. And that's just important for people to realize. So even if you owned a business that's been around for 100 years, but you bought it 2 years ago, you're ineligible. And so that's one of the kind of core rules that they've developed in this program. Again, I keep telling people, I didn't make the rules. I'm just here to help people through them. And then also, even though I know we're on a Peoria Heights broadcast, any businesses that are in the city of Peoria or in the city of Pekin are ineligible because they get their own direct allocation of this same funding. And so kind of by law, it's for what we call non-entitlement communities. And you have to have less than 50 employees. Even sole proprietorships are allowed as long as they have at least one full-time employee equivalent other than the owner. So those are kind of some of the parameters. We have worked very closely with all of our communities. We've been training your own city administrator here on that. So that's a place you can reach out. You can also always reach out to us, and we'll help people walk through the application.
Okay. So potential applicants should know that these are government programs, and so there are some strings attached, and requires some effort on the applicant's part. So what are some of those strings?
So I think that the one that I always want to make sure that people understand up front is because this is a government program, some of the information they're requiring is financial information, and that information may be subject to disclosure under the Freedom of Information Act. So everybody's got to be comfortable with whatever they're putting down on the application is something that almost anybody could potentially see. And as business owners, they will just have to weigh there wouldn't be any like we're redacting bank account information, but that they'll have to weigh whatever they feel that jeopardizes them against the opportunity of getting $20,000 or $25,000. So I don't say that lightly. Everybody's got to make their own decision, but we want to make it very clear from the beginning so that nobody's surprised. I think that's probably the biggest string that's attached. Other than if you get the money, you have to use it as you say you did, or else you will have to pay it back. And
there's a review process.
And there's a review process, and so if you end up with a $20,000 grant and choose not to reopen your business and take that $20,000 and put a new deck on your back at your house, then they're going to come after you to get that money back.
That's right. But businesses must move really quickly, right? Because the application deadline is when?
So the application deadline for any business in Peoria County, so that would be everybody in Peoria
Yeah.
Heights, is Friday, April 10th at 5 p.m.
So 48 hours, folks, 2 days, things are moving very quickly.
That is. But the reason that we're doing
yeah.
it, and I think it's important, because there's literally no deadline from the state of Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
But we also know that even though it's a $20 million program and the maximum is $25,000, if everybody got the maximum, that's only 800 businesses in all of downstate Illinois.
Right.
So there is a rush to obviously get your applications in. And there's a whole kind of back-end process to this that involves Peoria County. And if we don't put a deadline of April 10th, then it just triggers more delay. And what we don't want to do is get all of these applications in when the last dollar has already been spent.
Sure. So, as you've been watching this, what's the participation been like? I think you mentioned earlier that 3 Peoria Heights businesses
already 3 have gone all the way through
yeah.
and I didn't look to see how many had started the process, but 3 had already applied and gone all the way through the application process. They haven't been funded. We probably won't get money until near the end of May.
Right.
I think it's this isn't a lifeline that's going to help you right now.
Right.
This is a money that's intended to help you reopen if you've been closed, and it's likely the money wouldn't get delivered until late May.
Right.
And so we've seen about 20, I think, completed applications.
And that's if everything clicks, of
Right.
course. I mean, because there's going to be a backlog and
right. Yeah. This is what. Right.
And they're
Yes.
buried and
Absolutely.
so try to be patient.
Right. I've stopped saying you've got to be patient, because I understand that the businesses are in a world of hurt, and so it's unfair, to like preach patience. But I think people have to understand that these programs just don't happen overnight, and so we're working as fast as we can. We've had about 20. We're dealing with small businesses in 4, and we'll add our 5th county next week in Logan County. We've got about 20 to 25 applications in already over across the region.
Yeah, and as I said, that's why you're one of the busiest men in Central Illinois. So besides this program, and we're talking about the Stabilization program, which is a grant, you don't have to pay it back. There are other loan programs, and we already mentioned one through the Small Business Administration, the Paycheck Protection Program. There's also an economic injury disaster loan, so how's that?
Sure,
different?
that is a loan. That's also available from the U.S. Small Business Administration. Unlike the Paycheck Protection, where you go through your bank, the EIDL loan, which is usually called Economic Injury Disaster Loan, you actually apply directly and get the funds directly from SBA.
Right.
So that is
Not through a bank.
Right, not your bank.
Right.
And so there's an online portal. Again, Bradley's Small Business Development Center is a great place to get information about the EIDL program. It is you can borrow up to $2 million. It's for businesses that have up to 500 employees, so it's bigger than the other one. And the interest rate is low. It's I think 3.75%. And you can borrow for up to 30 years. And there's I think it's a 10 or 11 month deferred payment. So you borrow the money now, you won't even have to make your first payment for 11 months after draw. So that program's designed in. Some businesses just aren't in a position to take on any more debt.
No, sure.
You don't even have to have collateral if it's, I think now under $200,000. They're not even seeking collateral or personal guarantees. So it's attractive as a loan if you're in a position to take on more debt.
Right. Okay. Now there are other programs tailored to very specific businesses, correct? Such as bars and restaurants. I know there's Bartender Emergency Assistance Program.
That's actually for bartenders.
Yes.
Not for bars. It's actually if you know a bartender who is at a financial crisis, right? It's not just for any bartender who's now out of work, but maybe the bartender who's out of work that has an eviction notice or unpaid medical bills or something like that. There's a program from the U.S. Bartenders Association has put together. So there is help out there for people. They just have to kind of go look for it. And our website's a good place to start.
Do you have other recommendations, other things you'd advise people, businesses pursue? I trust you would encourage people to throw their hat in the ring if they feel sincere need
Yes.
to stay afloat, even if the process is not always easy.
You know what? There's no hurt in trying, and I think that I think businesses have to think differently about the services that they provide and what can they do. I mean, I think we've seen, even with our bars and restaurants, especially our restaurants, how they've had to pivot and provide a service they wouldn't ordinarily. You have a great restaurant here in Edge, right? Right. I passed by. I bet you Edge never did any takeout business. Nobody ever ordered, DoorDash from Edge, because it's the type of place you go and have a nice, elegant sit-down dinner. And so all businesses, I think, have to start thinking about what they do and can they deliver it in a different way, at least through this time period as we kind of move through the crisis. So I would avail myself of every resource and take a chance on any program that's out there. And the worst that's going to happen is they're going to say no, which is exactly the answer you're going to get if you don't apply.
Right. You do bring up something really interesting to me, which is that the flip side of this crisis is that it does force businesses to look at things differently, and it's going to pose some opportunities for people. I know of a restaurant that is sort of opening a frozen food business now and didn't do that before, right?
Absolutely. I know which one you're talking about, too.
Yeah. And our businesses, manufacturers that are now going to make ventilators or whatever the case may be, could open up a whole new line of business for people that could be very prosperous moving forward.
Absolutely. Crisis is opportunity, and I do not say that lightly, because I know that there's a lot of businesses. Not everybody can pivot, but there's always opportunity in crisis. I think the people who own Zoom or Skype, they're obviously doing pretty well. So there will be new business models that emerge out of this, and there will be success in there.
Good. I did want to ask you about Charitable Options, and I know the Community Foundation is accepting donations, correct?
Correct.
Do you know what kind of assistance might be available there?
So for full disclosure, I'm on the board of directors of the Community Foundation of Central Illinois, and so we're working right now through what a grant distribution model might look like, because donations to the Central Illinois Disaster Recovery Fund is actually the fund. It was actually set up as part of the tornadoes in Washington, right. And it actually had a little bit of money left in it that we've been able to utilize and attract more donations to it. But because all of those are charitable donations, we can't give that money out to businesses or individuals. That would violate tax law. So we would be looking for charitable efforts, whether those are food pantries or some of the great organizations that we have. So within the next couple of weeks, we will have a grant distribution model for that. But very important, if people have, there's a lot of agencies that are seeking funds right now. This is a great way if you have any extra cash to donate. The Community Foundation of Central Illinois would be an excellent place to do it.
Good. So in so many ways, we're in uncharted territory here. Millions have filed for unemployment, 10 million in the last 2 weeks, which blew the previous record out of the water, right? Congress has passed a $2 trillion relief package. The local governments are doing what they can, even as they confront decreased tax revenues, and they're going to have budget challenges of their own.
It's going to be incredible. Yeah.
So I guess I'm wondering and asking you if you can provide any reassurance to local businesses, local governments too, that there's a light at the end of this tunnel.
I do, and I try not to be like a Pollyanna. But I believe in our region. I mean, I obviously believe in our country and the resiliency of our country, but I very much believe in the resiliency of our community and our region here. And I've said this a few times, that we are the region whose economy was made illegal overnight when Prohibition happened. Right. And yet we are all still here. We were the earth-moving capital of the world, where we had 30 or 40,000 people working at Caterpillar. And while there's still an incredible presence in our community, we're still here. Your own community of Peoria Heights, once known as the home of Pabst Blue Ribbon, has overcome and reimagined itself as the community is today. So this is incredibly trying times for our community and for our business community, especially the people that work for them. But I know we'll get through this, and I'm not sure we'll be better off, and we'll have thanked ourselves for having gone through this. And I don't believe that anybody wishes this were happening. But I do believe that at the end of this, we'll be as strong as we were before, and we'll be able to move forward as a region. Help is out there. They're already negotiating a fourth aid package out of the federal government. I know that the state is doing what it can, and I know that local communities, as they start to understand the economic reality of their revenue and expense pictures, are gonna step up as well and help local business.
Great. Chris, as promised, we wanted to get you in and out, so we've done that. We cannot thank you enough for carving out a little time for us today.
Well, thank you for what you and Mayor Phelan and everybody in the Heights is doing for your businesses. I know that that's an important part of this, is that you're caring for the people that are working your community as well.
Well, we appreciate that, and thank you as well for all of your efforts. So that wraps things up for us today. So long, stay well, rest assured that we are going to emerge from this crisis, and please tune in to the next episode of Tower Talk.